Hey! Today I printed Setsuna from Redo of a Healer. She was January's Patreon model from Pink Studio and is currently available on CG Trader, I think. So if you want to print her too, just pick her up on there. I printed the cut version on my Aligu Saturn in 150% scale. That was a nice size to get all the detail I wanted and just looks right compared to my other models in the cabinet. I printed the tail piece on my Anycubic Viper just because I didn't really want to spend the extra resin just for this big piece, and it doesn't really have too much detail, so I could get away with it in FDM. This time for the base I didn't fully custom base, just because the one that comes with the model just didn't really tickle my pickle and I wanted something different. But maybe before we really start, some things up front. I streamed the complete process on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/shu112, and this was my first real project that I streamed, so some recordings are kinda scuffed. Also, I was nervous as heck, so yeah, bear with me with this one, okay? Some recordings are really not that good, but I'm trying my best here, okay? And I hope I get better in the future, so yeah, that out of the way, I think we can start painting that thing, I guess. Now that we got that stuff out of the way, let's get the stuff printed. While this is printing, I printed all the parts of our little favorite Ice Fox Hollow, just so to save some resin. For printing I used Aligu water washable resin, so that I don't have to use isopropyl alcohol to clean the parts, and can just rinse them underwater. Of course I had my fair share of prints failed, like always. I fucking hate my life, this shit is so fucking expensive to reprint. For example, her ass exploded. That was fun. The walls were too thin, so while I was sanding it, just exploded. That would be funny if I filmed it, right? Of course not. But here's a 100% accurate reconstruction. Okay, let's get started with the female parts. I don't know how much I can show without YouTube kicking my ass. YouTube says it's okay as long as it's artistic, but I don't know. But censoring would be a ton of work, and to be honest, for example in this chapter, it would be completely pointless because I only work on censored parts. You wouldn't see anything, so I guess I try my luck. As you maybe already noticed, the model is already partially painted. Well, I only decided to record my painting progress after I already finished sanding, puttying, priming and base coating everything. So sorry about that. In one of my next videos I will show the progress in more detail, I promise. But basically I sand with sandpaper and in Dremel, then putty everything up with green stuff and milliput until all the holes are gone, and then I sand again. I repeat this progress as long as until it's nice and smooth. For the primer I normally use white Vallejo airbrush primer, and for the skin tone I used Vallejo Bone White with a bit of pale flash. I also made some highlights with pure pale flash in my airbrush. But let's talk about what you're seeing here the whole time. The nipple I painted with some pale skin, some cadmium skin and some Mogus purple. Mogus purple is the answer to everything. It wasn't really too hard color wise, but it was stressful to get the transitions between the reddish tip and the darker regions right. So it looks natural. But I think it turned out right in the end. Now for the more strike-worthy parts of the female body, I guess. For this I used some random red with a bit of pale flash. I didn't spend too much time on this part because on the model you can't really see it anyways, so I didn't care too much about it. But I like how it turned out in the end. Okay, now to the legs, and also the rest of the parts that has blue fur, I guess. I painted the fur with Citadel Luthern Blue, the airbrush color. Off screen of course, sorry about that. And then dry brushed with an acrylic white from Amsterdam over all the blue fur until I got this icy fur vibe that Setsuna has. Of course I say dry brushing and the first thing I do is airbrushing, I've done the feet with a just normal airbrush white, so that it looks right. Dry brushing wasn't the most exciting part for this build, but it was necessary to get the effect right. The tail I printed with my Anycubic Viper, and I really like how this part turned out in FDM. So if you want to print this yourself, I can recommend printing that part in FDM if you can. You just save a lot of resin. I really liked the hair in this model. It just was really fun to paint and looked awesome in the end. The hair had quite some problems because there was a really big gap between the two hair parts, so I had to putty it a lot. I also had to putty some parts on the arm. I just used liquid green stuff for that and then painted over it with a close enough skin color. In this shot you can see the putty I used to fill in the gaps between the front and back hair. It was quite a bit of milliput. The male parts were just standard gunmetal Vallejo paint. For the nail color I used my Vallejo black with some charred brown. I like how the colored nails added a lot of detail to the model. It felt really good to painting that, not gonna lie. For the feet I've done the same thing as for the hands, so there was nothing too special here. I think detail painting is the most fun part in the whole building process, because it's just so relaxing and Also you see how the nice details from the model finally get some pop, and it just felt really good. For the toe beans I just mixed some random pink. I think I used Citadel and some Vallejo pink, I don't know for sure. But they turned out really cute. Now for the face and eyes. For the eyes I usually paint with a brush. For the white I started with just a white base coat and then built up from there. It took me some tries, but in the end I liked the eye result. I tried to speed up my process with a bigger brush, but then decided, nope, that's a bad idea. For the brows I used my Lutheran blue and some Army Painter icy blue. Stormy blue was it, right? I don't know how I feel about the Army Painter colors. I like some of the colors, but I don't know, they don't have the best opacity and also they separate so fast. I don't know, I mainly use Vallejo and Citadel paints. For the base pupil color I used the same blue and then made some blackish, some black outlines with a really fine brush, and then made the pupil itself with some darker blue and a lighter blue shade to get the anime-like color transition. And then I just added my round pupil and my light reflections. The eyes are the most stressful part. I always so anxious to fuck it up, but I really like how the eyes turned out in this model. I really like how they look. And then I just added some red cheeks, because I mean, it's kind of a spicy pose, so yeah, I think a bit of a red face would be appropriate. Now let's talk about the custom base, aka the bed. Yeah, the bed I made basically myself in Blender and then printed on my Anycubic Viper. The bed took forever to print. I think the mattress part took, I think, 60 hours just printing in 2 parts. Maybe 70 with the 2 parts. And then I printed the front and back piece separate. I've had to putty up a little bit of the back side because there were some height difference that had supports on them that didn't come off that nice, so I had to putty up parts of it. I had decided to first glue everything together and then paint it, because it just made more sense in this situation. For the back piece I didn't have to do too much sanding, just a bit of excess plastic, but nothing too special. Also for the back part I used a lot of hot glue to fill in the gaps, because there were a lot of them. In Blender you can't always see all the gaps, and in this part I didn't really mind them. I just wanted to make sure it's sturdy enough to hold the model itself, so I used a lot of hot glue, but that's what hot glue is for. I also filled in the gaps in the front piece with hot glue. When using hot glue you have to be careful not to deform the part, because the part itself gets hot and then it gets flexible. For primer I used a black airbrush primer from Vallejo. I decided to prime this bed black because I wanted nice shadow for the gold parts on the bed trim. So I used black to get these deep shadows. You will see that it turned out great. Priming those big parts is really tedious, so that took some time. After that I just mixed some Beastie Brown and some Chart Brown from Vallejo and just tried get some darker wood color and just painted it on there. Nothing too special, to be honest. I mean, it's just a wood frame. For the gold trim, I used an Vallejo gold and just carefully dry brushed it on. I tried to get some wood color also in the shadows, so I first dry brushed with my brown that I used before, and then dry brushed over it with a gold color to get the effect that I wanted. Yeah, it looks so awesome. I really like how the effect turned out. After that, it took me quite some time to get the red right that I wanted, and I wanted a really, really dark red, like a red wine red, and I didn't get the color right for the first part, and then I used a lot of these blood effect colors from Citadel to get this dark red that I wanted. And I'm always really careful with these colors because it makes every model look like a slaughterhouse, but this time I'm surprised how good this color turned out with this blood effect paint in there. It took some coats to get this right because of the black primer, but that also added to the dark effect of the red. Now for the mattress and the blanket, I used white and bone white in different percentages to get the mattress a bit lighter and the blanket then a bit darker. Nothing too special here, but I like how it looked in the end, but it took maybe 8 to 10 coats to get completely over the black primer. Okay, now I think it's time to see how it all came together. All in all, I really like how she turned out. She was also my first pin-up model, so all that skin was also a first for me. The model itself was fantastic, like all of Pink Studios models. I don't have to pin the model or anything, it fitted all nicely together, aside from the gaps in the hairpiece. But that's okay. I especially like the eyes this time. Often they have real geometry, but this time it was just the flat eye socket, so I could be a bit creative with the eyes. That was a lot of fun. The base was kinda bland, but not all people like elaborate bases, so I get it why the base is what it is. But that's the nice thing about 3D printed figures, you can just modify them until you like them. Would I change anything? Nah, I don't think so. I mean, you always have some parts of the paint job that's a bit scuffed, but that jank is part of the charm of your own painted anime figure. But I think that's it. She's finished, and so is this video. Thanks for watching. Maybe like or subscribe or whatever people say at the end of these videos. I don't really know. It's my first time. I also stream on Twitch and paint sometimes. So yeah, see you in the next video. Bye!